My dear brothers and sisters, our gospel today speaks about beatitude, the happiness, which is the perfect happiness that everyone's desire. And if we have to look at the gospel today, my dear brothers and sisters, it is the upside down values, which is on how we look at things. And this is contrary on how the world favors us. You can just see, my dear brothers and sisters, that it is contrary to what we understand, contrary to what we desire for, contrary to what we wanted in life. Because it says Jesus, in his Sermon on the Mount, it says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are they who mourn. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are hungry and thirsty. Blessed are the merciful. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are those who are persecuted. Blessed are those who are insulted." If we have to look, the world will tell us it is not, because the blessed or the happy persons in the world are those who are rich, those who have enough things in the table, those who are actually famous, those who have something, those who are someone in the community. And I think this is actually what the world is telling to us. It is not actually what Jesus is telling to us. It is contrary to what the gospel is telling to us. And if we have to underline the very words of Jesus at the last part of the sermon, when he said, "Rejoice and be glad, for your reward will be great in heaven." At this time of pandemic, COVID-19, it is a survival of the fittest. It is more on those who can live, those who have, especially in the field of education and learning. It looks like sinasabi po sa atin, ang mga pag-aaral lamang ay may kaya, because those who have gadgets, those who have access in internet, those who can undergo or go through an online learning, in which we could just see that this is what the world is telling to us. Those who are happy are those who have things in life. But it is not more happiness, but it's more on blessedness. Pwede po tayo maging masaya, pero hindi naman po tayo pinagpala, which is two different things. Pwede po tayo masaya, at ang ating kasiyahan panandalian lamang, kundi ang pagpapala ng Diyos ay siksik, liglig, at umaapaw. Ibig sabihin, we might not have things in life. We may not be self-sufficient. We may not be someone in the community. We may not be as popular as others could be popular. But I think the true sense of happiness is this, that when we learn to be contented of what we have in life. The true sense of happiness is this, when we are contented and we have God in our life. Because, dear brothers and sisters, we are being once again reminded of the gospel today. And in fact, the true sense of happiness is that when we are able to have a sense of sacrifice, when we are one with those suffering people, when we are one with our brethren, and most especially this would define this beatitudes. Tells us that life is not going to be easy. Tells us that life is a life of sacrifice. Tells us is that our Lord Jesus Christ is reminding us, after all, that our reward will be great in heaven. So we should rejoice and be glad. My dear brothers and sisters, it makes sense to live after all. when we live our life, not only for ourselves, but for other people. When we live our life with a sense of sacrifice, a willingness to share, a willingness to give, a willingness to live with our brothers and sisters, I think this is what makes our life wonderful and most especially meaningful. When we live our life with a sense of sacrifice and a sense of helping other people. But brothers and sisters, let us be reminded today by the words of Jesus, rejoice and be glad, for your reward will be great in heaven. Let us always focus on the things of God, and that is continuously inviting us. Let us always focus on what we get, not here on earth, but with God in heaven. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward will be great in heaven. Amen.